Alright, time for the solutions for the review for our Mastery Quiz 1. It's basically everything that we've done so far this term, which is algebraic proofs, solving inequalities, and solving for variables, so some solving stuff. Number 1, so here's the work in solving this equation up there. Usually you figure out what properties used for each step. So going from the start to this line here, what property lets you do that? Well, it just gets rid of the parentheses there, so that's going to be the distributive property. And on this next section, what's different is now there's a plus 3 on both sides. What lets you do that is the addition property of equality. And the next step, those calculations have been carried out, so that's called simplify or simplification property. And now on the next line, there is adding 3 to both sides. Well, that's just going to be, again, the addition property of equality. And then doing that addition with those variables there, that is called combine like terms. There on the left and right side, we got 5m on the right side. Now they're dividing both sides by 5, so that would be the division property of equality. And actually doing that division would be to simplify. And then finally switching what's on what side is the symmetric property. And so there's all our properties for number 1. Moving on to 2, we need to solve the inequality and list the properties we use along the way. Okay, well let's solve it first and then write out the properties. So I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides, just right at the start, to get negative 2x less than 19 minus 3 is going to be 16. I am now going to divide both sides by negative 2. And when you do that, you need to make sure you change the direction of the inequality in the middle. 16 divided by negative 2 is going to be negative 8. And that one's done. And so really the properties I use, the proof here can be on the right side. Well, the first one is just the subtraction property of not equality, of inequality, so the I there, subtraction property of inequality. I then simplify it to get to that step. I then use the division property of inequality and simplify it to get to my final step. And moving on to the next part, this one's just asking to solve for b, and so I don't need to list my properties. I'm going to put, since I have b's on both sides here, I'm going to just get my b's on the left side, because I like having my variables over there. And so on the left side, I'm going to have negative 12b minus 2 greater than or equal to 34. Well, now I just need to get rid of that subtract 2 by adding 2 to both sides. I'll get negative 12b greater than or equal to 36. And now I need to get rid of that number that's in front of the b by dividing both sides by negative 12. And now I have b greater than, oh, not greater than, because I divided by negative. I'm going to switch the direction of my inequality to get less than or equal to. And now it's going to be negative 3, because 36 divided by negative 12 is negative 3. So now I have this as my answer. And then the next thing on your review to do is to graph that inequality. So I'm going to put a 0 here and just count every other one. Well, because I can. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And in order to graph that, you need to put a circle at negative 3. And this says that b is less than negative 3, so I'm going to shade left. Put an arrow on the end. And this says it's less than or equal to, so it can be 3, so I'm going to fill in that circle at 3 and connect it to my shading. And that one's good to go. Moving on to the next one, we're supposed to solve this, and you make sure you do both of them, not just one. So on this first one, I'm going to subtract 17 from both sides to get negative 4x less than negative 16. Now divide both sides by negative 4 to get x greater than 4. Since I divided by a negative, I need to switch the direction of my inequality. Negative 16 divided by negative 4 is going to be positive 4. And then on this next one here on the right, I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides to start out to get 2x less than 18. And then divide by 2 on both sides to get x less than 9. And I don't change the direction of my inequality because I didn't divide by a negative, so it's going to stay like that. I have x greater than 4 and x is less than 9. So make sure your and comes with it. Moving on to 6, I need to graph this interval that's here. So I need at least the numbers 0 and 7 on my number line here. So I'm going to put 7, not 7, 0 over here and count every other one. Hopefully I don't run out of space. 4, 5, 6, 7. Alright, we got enough room here. Sweet. Now we're here, -1. So my first interval there goes from -infinity all the way until 0. And since it's an open bracket, I'm going to have an open circle at 0. And the shading goes all the way up to 0 from the -infinity area. So the shading is going to go left that direction. And the shading picks up again at 7. And since it's a square bracket, I'm going to fill in that circle at 7. And it's shaded to the right. It goes all the way to positive infinity. So I'm going to shade and then put an arrow there on the end to let you know the shading goes on forever that direction. So there's 6. On 7, I need to write the solutions in interval notation. So, well, this left part, it's got 2 different intervals, 2 different areas that are shaded. The left one, the shading goes left forever, so it's going to start at -infinity. And then it goes all the way until it reaches -3 and it stops. So -3. Infinities always have a circular bracket. Since -3 is a filled in circle, I'm going to have a square bracket there. The other area that's shaded starts at 2. Always travel from left to right. It starts at 2, so it's going to be the first number. And then this shading goes on forever and ever in the right direction, so it's going to go all the way to positive infinity. I'm going to put a circular bracket at infinity every time. And this is an open circle at 2, so I'm going to have an open bracket there. And I'm going to put the little U there in the middle, just like it was up there in that top piece. Moving on to 7, we have shading here just between 2 different numbers. Those numbers are -1 and 2. And since both of these are open circles, I'm going to have open brackets on each end, and that one's done. -1 to 2. And then that brings us to this lovely inequality. This is a compound inequality. And luckily the sides don't have variables with them, so I can actually solve the entire thing all at once. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to add 6 to all sides to get 3p in the middle. Left side, -36 plus 6 is -30. And on the right side, -15 plus 6 is going to give me -9. And now I'm going to divide all sides by 3 to get p in the middle. And since I divide by positive, those are going to stay the same on the inequalities. And then on the left side, I'm looking at -10. -9 divided by -9 divided by 3 is going to be just -3. And there's my final answer for that inequality. And then we're going to move on to our last two. We need to solve for r, so that's this piece right here. There's this how term, and then the 3 in front we need to get rid of, so we're going to subtract how from both sides. And that'll give us 3r equals to u minus how. And we need to divide by 3 on both sides to get rid of what's in front of r. So we're going to get r equals u minus how divided by everything, 3. And that one's done. R equals u minus how divided by 3, everything over 3 on the right side. On 10, we need to solve for n. That's a little piece right there. Well, let's subtract 2b from both sides. Simplifying the left side, we're going to get km. And on the right side, we're going to have L plus K minus 2B. And now I just need to divide by that K that's in front of M. Divide both sides by K. And now we're looking at M equals L plus K plus K, sheesh, minus 2B. everything over k. And no, you can't just cancel this out like that, because you have a lot of things being divided by k, not just that single k term. And that's our solutions for the review for the Mastery Quiz 1.